Hey y'all, it's Philip again. I just wanted to do a quick video just looking at some of the stuff I have here. Um, Talking about the value of assortments, or rather the lack thereof. Even with relatively cheap assortments, I like getting them because they're cool to look at. Um, but even still, they're really not the best value. Um, it is much better to get single items. But the act of opening something up is very fun. So I think that is part of the value of an assortment. And that's why I stay with the smaller, very cheap assortments, whether it's like $15 or under. Um, but I wanted to compare something I thought was really strange. Are you taking a assortment that I got before? The one I got at the grocery store last year, 2023, was the Phantom Starlight 3, not this one here. This one is an earlier year where it had three smoke balls instead of a fountain that was supposed to be here, which is the Galactic Stardust. Now, I enjoyed that fountain, but all these fountains are about 15 seconds to 30 seconds in length. This Moon Dance, which is a purple rain, basically, it didn't have as many of the colors, but it was a good height. This one went on for a long time. The Galactic Stardust, again, had some nice colors. Peach flower, I really do like flower fountains and that kind of flowery effect. Um, so yeah, it was a good assortment, and I really felt like I got the value out of it. But as you can see, it's five items, and I got it for $10. So that means $2 an item, you know. And there were no novelties, but I still felt like I got a good value out of that. So I think to me, when I benchmark something, $2 an item is when it comes to an assortment is like the max I'll go for. Um, if it's any more than that, if it's like paying a lot of money per item, more than $2, I start to see it in less of a good light. Because as we know, a lot of the stuff that's put in assortments is generic items. Now, if you watch the earlier video I made on the Dominator Ball of Fun, which I got off ocfireworks.com, which is a really good place, and that's a really good assortment. That has even better value for money because that was $3.50. And when you look at the categories of items, you have snaps, a box of 50, the poppers, which I'm counting as one unit, the two ground blooms, which I'm counting as one unit, the snakes, the fountain, the chicken, and the pack of crackling balls. So that is seven. So $3.50 for seven items. That is obviously even better of a value than what you saw with the Phantom assortment, with the big name brand, the brand that we often compare to TNT. So again, even in the world of cheap assortments, super cheap assortments, um, value for money isn't always there. So I'm going to say my main rule again is if I get an assortment, it is $15 or $20 or under, because there's a lot of interesting assortments with weird little fountains and all that kind of stuff. Um, but you really want to see the value for money. This is the ideal value for money, but in order to get this ideal value for money, you have to go for very generic items or very Chinese items. I don't know how to term it. Just generic. Again, these are crackling balls that look very similar to the TNT Blast that I've had many times, but there's no brand on it. Could have just as easily taken that 5 seconds to print the Dominator brand on it, but these are generic. So, that's what you get for 350 is generic fireworks. But it should be really fun. And it's good value for money. And for me, this is the upper range when it comes to value for money, which is $2 an item. So, for example, if I got a $20 assortment, I would want to see 10 items in there, 10 good fountains, or six good fountains and four novelties, and that would be a really cool little assortment for the value for money. So yeah, I think that's kind of my rules. So as we get closer to the fireworks season, uh, yeah, look for that. Look for good value for money, and look for interesting things in the assortment. Um, I thought this year I was going to get a TNT assortment, but then I reminded myself that all the ones around me, the only novelties that are in there are Lightning Flash. Um, and it just really wasn't going to give me that interest. And I like novelties a lot. Um, but again, if you want the truly unique assortments, you really shouldn't go the route I went um, last year, and you should do what I did this year when I went to our local store. And that assortment, which again I have the the header right here in my drawer for this assortment from Nitro Fireworks. But as you can see, um, all the printing was done in China, but the packaging and the choosing of items was done here in the US, which made it a fun assortment because they chose what they wanted to have in there. And when a fireworks store makes those choices, guess what they like to put in there a lot? Novelties. And so it was chock full of novelties and things I had never seen before. So I'm just genuinely loving that type of assortment. So the basic rules are look for great value for money, look for things made by your own local stores, ideally, um, and uniqueness. Uniqueness. Novelties are great to see in an assortment. And that's probably what's going to keep me with things like some of these Phantom assortments, which I did when I went to the grocery store, which is where I get Phantom assortments. There are one or two that have actual novelties in them. So I like that. Good for you, Phantom. So, yeah, enough of my rambling.